This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. Brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 4th of February 2020, and I am 2J.
I am JM.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the headlines today, here they are. In the Star, 2022, Raila targets Ruto strongholds. In the Daily Nation, what will happen if the virus comes? And in the Standard, School of Death. However, earlier today, we found out that Kenya's second president passed away. Mzee Moi is no longer with us.
Yes.
And so in lieu of that, the headlines, each paper had new
special
headlines.
edition.
Special editions. So Daily Nation and Standard both said Kwaheri Mzee. And the Star said Moi dies at 95. Before we go there, also, School of Death. Kakamega, 14 pupils lost. We feel for their parents and send our condolences, as we also send condolences to
the
Moi's family. So
So
what can we say? What can we remember about this great man?
Moi.
There's
so much to say.
There is so much to say.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we can start. Did you guys know he was denied the chance to join Alliance High School?
Oh, really?
Yes, by the colonial administration.
Do we know why?
I do not know why, but instead he was then sent to a teacher's college. The Tambat Teachers Training College. And then he became a teacher at the tender age of 21.
Wow.
Right? Then he goes on, he became a member of the LegCo, Rift Valley, representing Rift Valley, in 1955 at the age of 31. Is this not a man who is
dedicated?
Dedicated and had seen a mission there. And he goes on to have a political life through Kadu. And sort of showing himself to be very loyal to the first president, Jomo Kenyatta. And then Jomo dies.
Yes, and he receives the reward,
in 1978. And he navigates sort of quite a bit to get there and to hold that position.
Absolutely. And so if I could just take you back into history, and here I'm going to quote from Andrew Moulton's book, Moi, The Making of an African Statesman. And in one of the chapters, Moulton tells us of the morning of the 22nd of August, 1978. And it's like Moi kind of had a premonition. He kind of knew that something was amiss. And so Moulton says, the morning of the 22nd of August, 1978, Moi had a restless night. He was unable to sleep, and at 4 a.m. found himself padding around his Kabarak home in Nakuru, where he's going to be buried. Then his telephone made a faint ping. And if he had been asleep, Moulton says, he wouldn't have heard the faint mechanical sound. Now, when he picked up, the Coast PC Mahio told him, the eyes of Kenyatta have closed. Right? So Mahio told him, make your way to Nairobi ASAP, and told him, keep your eyes open. So in a very short space of time, in those few minutes, Moi drove quietly out of Kabarak and through the virtually deserted streets of Nakuru into Nairobi. And he traveled in one vehicle with only one bodyguard. The book also says that there was a roadblock somewhere in Nakuru, but which he managed to go through. And I think it wasn't Ngoroko. Manned roadblock, precisely. And that's why he managed to get through. And so the president had made his escape with only minutes to spare, he says. Within 30 minutes of leaving Kabarak, Ngoroko units had set up their roadblocks. And finally, Moi later reflected and said that it was God's will that he got through. He used to talk about the ping that saved the president. Because he was up, at that odd hour of the night, and he heard the ping. That's what saved him.
And history could have turned out very differently.
Very differently for him and for the country.
So he goes on to survive a coup in 1982. His actions thereafter, he goes very cruel to his opposition and establishes his hegemony. And then we have a man who won 5 elections in total, which is
very interesting, very African.
But also his history has two sides, and I think it would probably be unfair to not recognize that there's a lot of people who,
may not look at that in the light that we're talking about right now. There's always two sides to the legacy of a leader, and I think it's important that we do not forget. As we remember his memory, we do remember some of those other things, because there are a lot of people who were impacted. Especially before Saba, before multipartyism. So there's a whole other side of that legacy. But we want him to rest in peace now. Interestingly, he died at the age of 95. Mandela has died at 95. Mugabe has died at 95. So he's in the league of... But there are rumors that he might even have been older than 100. Yes, his spokesman Lee Juru was saying that he might be 102. Well, there we go. Very true. So I think in respect of that, who do we give winning headlines?
I think we give it to the Nation
and the Standard. I like the point you were making, is that the Star, Moi dies at 95. It doesn't do justice to the legacy of that man. It's just very...
It doesn't.
Yes. All right. Fantastic.
Great. So there you have it. With all the respect and condolences, winning headlines from Standard and the Nation.
Fantastic.
We may...
Yes, I'll put these away.
These away. Onto the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria that we use. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
Yes. So in the Nation, we have a cartoon by Ndolo. Very, very funny one. So Uhuru is drawing lines on the ground, presumably in the sand, and he says to Ruto and his crew, I dare you to cross this line again. And what you see there is he has drawn one other line, just
two other lines
actually, just before the other one that they had drawn.
And every time they have crossed the line.
Every time they seem to be crossing the line. Crossing the line.
The more you draw it, the more they're crossing.
Exactly. When you tell someone no, they want to do what you're saying no to.
I love how he's drawn Alice Wahame.
Alice will help. Afro and Team Yellow.
And presumably, he's telling them don't cross again, knowing full well that they probably will.
They probably will. Very funny cartoon.
Great cartoon.
Okay, I think we parked
And then we have the Star.
Yes.
We have Raila.
Yes. In the Star, we have a fat pig written county governments, and it's putting on makeup and lipstick, and it has this pad written regional government. And then this is, you got the quote up there saying outgoing governors. So this is in reference to these governors are going, term 2 governors. And then Raila is holding up a magnifying glass, it would appear. A mirror, sorry.
A mirror up to the county government.
Up to the county governments, BBI, and it's showing them their reflection.
Wow.
And of course, the context here is the proposal possibly to have now these regional governors rather than the county.
Which will create this extra tier that I don't possibly think we need.
No.
But the reason is, and why it is compelling to a lot of them, is that there'll be 22 governors that are constitutionally barred from running again. So people are looking to extend their political lifelines. And Raila might just be giving it to them.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
Also a good cartoon.
I think it is a good cartoon.
Okay.
So we're parking
we
it
park
too.
that one
All right,
too.
finally, in the Standard.
In the Standard,
we have Gado.
The real situation.
Yes. So Gado has drawn Uhuru and Raila, and they both have the reggae
and
kind of theme going on with the wigs. And then around them you have a band of hyenas and pigs and vultures. And the caption there says, real situation, BBI records. Check out the real situation. Where did it begin? Handshake. Where will it end? Elections. And there ain't no use. No one can stop us now. Ain't no use. Nobody can stop us now.
Damn, you should have sang this.
But in your case, there's a little bit of a rapping thing going on.
And Gado gives an apology there to Bob Marley and the Walkers.
The Wailers.
And nobody can stop looting now, says the little character right now.
So this is Bob Marley's song, The Real Situation. And basically, I think he's doing a State of the Nation again.
Exactly, However, I will say it's not as funny
as the
because the one State of the Nation, we gave that best cartoon of the year, I believe. So I feel like this is not
as funny.
Not as funny.
So who do we give it to? Do you guys like the crossing of the line or the pigs?
Guys, I think as a start, okay, I'm sorry, I tossed the Standard. As a start to the year, I really liked both the Star and the Daily Nation. I would give it.
I like the Nation.
Really?
Personally. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know.
Fair enough. The nation
Give it to the
can have
nation.
it.
Fantastic. All right.
I have no qualms.
There you
There you
have
go.
it. The Nation Dula gives us our winning cartoon.
Yes.
What is our final thought?
And now our final thought, in line, as you mentioned yesterday, with Black History Month. So today we'll be looking at Black History Week in relation to the United States and the African Americans. So today the book we're looking at is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, written by Rebecca Skloot in 2010. So Skloot is a freelance science writer who also specializes in science and medicine. This book actually was #1 on the New York Times book
Bestseller?
review. Yeah,
Okay.
bestseller books, yeah. So Skloot first heard of Henrietta Lacks, an African-American woman whose cancer cells were harvested and used to create an immortal cell line for scientific experimentation. However, very little information existed about this woman, Henrietta Lacks, so Skloot went on a mission to find out what the story was and then to tell it to the world.
Yeah.
So 31-year-old Henrietta Lacks went to the hospital in 1951. She went to the Johns Hopkins Hospital in the US for what she called a knot in her cervix. So later, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer and she was given some treatment. But in the process, some tissue was taken from her body, from the tumor specifically, and it was given to a doctor called George Gay, and he wanted to use it to cultivate and grow some cells in test tubes. So at this time in the 1950s, doctors were trying to create a breed of human cells that could grow and regenerate externally.
Yeah.
And this is what you call cell cultivating. So the definition is a process whereby cells are grown under controlled conditions, normally outside of their natural environment. So you take a cell and you grow it in a petri dish or in a test tube.
Yeah.
So this Dr. Gay had been trying for years and failing to have an infinite supply of cells that he could work on until he met Henrietta Lacks.
Yep.
So neither her or her family knew about this tissue sample being removed from her body. And in the hospital, they never told the hospital or other people thereafter. So the amazing thing about Henrietta's cells is that the speed in which they were able to grow and their ability to stay alive. So typically when cells are removed from the body, they die very quickly, but hers were able to regenerate, to split and grow and multiply with no problem. And so this became a viral sensation in the medical community. And then eventually the cell was called HeLa or Hela. Yes. So eventually, unfortunately, Henrietta succumbed to her cancer and she died. But she ended up becoming the godmother of virology, which is the science of viral diseases, and biotech. And essentially these cells that they took from her body have benefited absolutely anybody who's taken medication stronger than a Panadol.
Wow.
So Maramoja, Panadol, all of that, it's probably everyone.
Yeah.
So to date, we can say that all the medicine we take is because of her cells.
Yeah.
And to date, scientists have grown over 50 million metric tons of her cells, which is about 5 billion kilograms. That's what exists right now. And you can actually buy some of them. There's a phone number that you can call in the US if you want to get some of her cells, and they can ship it and deliver it to you.
And TJ, I heard this, that if all the HeLa cells were put together, it would outweigh 100 Empire State Buildings and could circle the equator 3 times.
Wow.
That's how much.
All of this from one woman.
Yes.
So eventually this story is kind of telling how her family had no idea that this happened. This woman died not knowing that she had benefited to medicine in the way that she did.
Absolutely.
And
And
humanity.
humanity.
And humanity.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the saddest part of the story is that the family got no compensation whatsoever for what came out of this the cells that were taken from her body.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the patents that you were telling us about.
Exactly. There are about 10,000 patents that exist from this.
Worth so many
worth
millions.
over $3 billion that the family
billions of dollars.
did not see a cent of.
Can you imagine? That's a whole conversation actually that's addressed in the book. Just, things about owning your body and parts of your body and all of that. I'll talk about what happened soon after her death. So the doctors, Dr. Gay, basically also with the help of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, set up a HeLa factory. So a factory, really just a lab to mass produce all these cells because they were looking for a cure for polio. And they found out that the HeLa cell was susceptible to getting polio. And so it was the kind of cell that they could use to attempt to get a cure for polio. So that was the goal behind setting up this huge factory. And the cells turned out to be amenable for cell production for 3 reasons. First of all, the cost of producing the cells and doing research was very low. Until then, most studies aiming to find cures for diseases used monkeys as test subjects. But experimenting on monkeys was very expensive because there were few and far between, and you know, not everybody could access a monkey. So HeLa cells were able to survive in what you call the culture medium, as you spoke. And in contrast, other cells were only able to grow in the glass surface, also as you mentioned. So they could be replicated whenever there was a culture medium, and that's what this HeLa cell produced. And they were basically also resilient to being transported across long distances, and that's why then that they ended up being so successful, because if you could transport it across all of America to different labs, it just meant way more people working on those cells to get cures, to do experiments, and eventually they got a cure for polio and even certain strains of cancer and other diseases have knowledge around those issues has been illuminated through
But one interesting fact I came across is that in 1966 it became clear that the HeLa cells had contaminated so many other cells around the world, as far as Russia. So it was actually contaminating research because of how quickly they would grow and regenerate themselves, which was so interesting.
It was her payback to this scientific community
for doing her bad like that.
It's interesting. When I was reading this story, I kept wondering to myself, how did this happen? Why was society allowing these kinds of things to happen? And she coins a term called medical paternalism, and it's basically a philosophy about the doctor knowing way more than the patient, and it meant that the doctor was always right. So it was so crazy that basically any decision about treatment, the doctor decided what he would tell you. So at some point, maybe they would not even tell you that you had cancer if they thought it would upset you. They would not tell you what kind of side effects your medication may have, or your surgery, things that you couldn't possibly imagine in today's day. So now when you apply this philosophy to uneducated, poor, powerless people, especially at that time, black people, then it's even easier to dehumanize people in the name of science. So when Dr. Gay all the doctors were asking him, can I borrow some cultures? He never thought of an ethical concern.
That this belonged to a person.
He just sort of shared it out and thought that it would be okay. And racism in medicine is a big theme in this book. There's this, Black people are constantly receiving less care, less treatment. They're given proportionately less pain medication than their white counterparts. But yet Black people trusted these institutions and would constantly go to places like Johns Hopkins. Now, there's a case that she gives, the Tuskegee syphilis study. And this is a case in which doctors took advantage of uneducated Black Southerners. And use their bodies to study the progression of syphilis, the disease, right? So in 1932, the study begins. 600 Black men, 399 with syphilis, 201 without syphilis. And the men agreed to be in the study in exchange for free medical exams, free meals, and a burial insurance. So something should have caught their attention there, but it didn't, right? And the study went on for 40 years, right? In 1972, the Associated Press does an expose. And they're like, these people didn't actually know
what was happening.
What was happening to their bodies.
This was what was so crazy. Even when penicillin was created in 1945, they discovered it can cure syphilis. The men in this study were not given that treatment.
Penicillin.
So the doctors actively held back the treatment of syphilis for them. Could have cured them and chose not to. So in 1972, after the committee comes together and says that this was ethically wrong, the study is stopped. A year later, a class action suit was filed. In 1974, they settle out of court for only $10 million.
My goodness.
But the US government decides that they're going to give benefits, medical benefits, lifetime medical benefits, and burial services for all the people in the study, as well as their dependents, their wives and their kids and all that. So in 2004, we have the last participant of the study dying. In 2009, we have the last widow dying. As we speak, there are about 12 offspring who are currently alive and still benefit from those. But still, that's a drop in the ocean.
Exactly.
For something that could have been cured for these men. And they were not told that they had syphilis. So they were just told, you have a bad blood disease that we're trying to cure.
So they took advantage of the ignorance.
Just took advantage of it.
And I think this story kind of like brings into light the bigger issues of medical racism. This is not isolated, and it's not isolated in the States. It's a Africa problem. It's a Black people problem. You think about eugenics. You think about sterilization that happens, without people's consent.
Exactly.
Black people are used sometimes as animals or as test cases.
Very crazy. So on a day where we had a winning headline from Daily Nation and The Standard, and a winning cartoon from
the Daily Nation
as well, I want to leave you with this. Henrietta Lacks taught us that immortality is the genius to move others long after you yourself have stopped moving. And Henrietta did a lot for humankind. She may not have gotten the benefits, her family may not have gotten the benefits, but we have, and her memory lives on in all of us who have encountered a medicine of some kind.
That's right.
So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, but find us on TV. We're on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Have a good evening.